The main problem, at least in my opinion, the main problem is that there is practically zero regulation over the beauty industry. The FDA does not have the ability to recall an item. They only have the ability to ask to have it recalled, which is very awkward.
Welcome. We'll go ahead and get started. So I'm Dr. Stewart and joined by Dr. Chelsea Gordon. And we have a special guest today. This is Alicia.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about clean beauty products, especially talking about hair. So everything hair related. And yeah, we're really excited to learn more. I know this is not my expertise, so excited to have a guest speaker join us today on the subject.
Awesome.
So I think let's just go ahead and start by how did you guys meet?
Yeah. So I was looking for a new stylist and the wonderful world of social media and Instagram, and had just found Alicia on Instagram, and then she requires, which I think is really cool, kind of a meet and greet to make sure that she is the right fit for somebody and that what you're looking for actually aligns. And so that's when we started having conversations about, what my goals were, as well as like what type of products or things that she is using. And so I think it's been year and a half, maybe 2 years.
I think this is the first time I've seen your face unmasked. So somewhere in
the last 2 years. So yes. And I just think it's really nice to have somebody who can actually have a conversation about here's the why behind it, and not just the like, try to avoid this or use this product, or here's a really common one, but like actual nitty gritty. Here's what we're looking for. And then what aligns with what your goals are. So
and I think too, just in the naturopathic medicine world, is that we're always like, the more that we learn, sometimes we can get into this analysis paralysis kind of a situation. So it's really nice to go to, those that are in the field to be like, okay, help us out here. Mm-hmm. So that's, again, another purpose for today is to help kind of streamline a lot of this, because I think that there is such a need of awareness, but then how to streamline this, how to make this easy and approachable for us and for patients and our family members too.
Well, I think some people really focus on a lot of the internal, and we forget that the external is just as important. And I think a lot of times we could be eating really healthy, we could be, not smoking and doing all the things we're supposed to be doing for our health, but then we're slathering our body in chemicals, and we could have adverse effects just from that. Mm-hmm. So just awareness around it.
Yeah.
Cool.
My name is Alicia Hayes. I've been a hairstylist for 17 years now. I'm licensed in California and Washington both, which is really exciting. And when I first started beauty school, we go to school and they're like, okay, here's your color. And every school will just tell you what you're using at school. Usually something pretty cheap because you're students and you're going to be wasting a lot of it. And then you learn basic color theory, where when you leave school, you can go out and you can use any line that you want. But they don't talk about health and the fact that you're now embarking on a journey of touching chemicals every day. Mm-hmm. So Chelsea probably gets her color done once every 4 months. I do about 2 of those every day. Mm-hmm. So my hands are in it, my lungs are in it, right? And it's a topic that we were never talked about. For me personally, I ended up having thyroid cancer in 2018, and it made me start looking at the endocrine system and things that affect the endocrine system. Mm-hmm. And clean beauty in general was kind of on my radar as far as makeup goes. But that's when I was like, oh my gosh, it's probably my job and what I'm touching. And so then I started looking into cleaner products that I can use behind the chair, and then also things that I can recommend to my clients, because I'm not the only person who's now intrigued by that. So that's kind of how I ended up here. I am by no means a doctor or a scientist or a chemist, but I'm a person who's kind of gone on this journey on my own. And so I hopefully will be giving you guys some good tips, some things that I found the most shocking, and an approachable way to make changes in your own lives.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I know that being dealt with a diagnosis like that, it does make you reevaluate a lot of things. So I think a lot of people can understand that.
Yeah, I think what's really valuable in that is that, yes, you're not a physician or, a scientist, but you have real life like application of all of this. You can be able to say, here's what I'm coming into contact with. Here's what I'm seeing. Like if people are coming in to see you for coloring, and you probably can tell based on their scalp what kind of products they may or may not be using or what they need. And so I think that it's valuable to have somebody who, yes, may not have the science behind it, but you have the real life application of it, which is still very valuable.
Well, and the products that you use, they don't only affect your health. I can also speak from a point of how they affect what we're able to do behind the chair. So even just with like coloring goals, if somebody is super built up with product, or if they're using something that's very stripping when they go home, their investment isn't necessarily going to be protected, or their goals may not be able to be achieved because the condition of the hair is not optimal when it comes in. It's applicable to people when they're coloring, but even if you're just cutting, I've had issues with product buildup affecting the way my tools even work on the hair. So it's kind of a thing from both sides, but we'll be talking a little bit more about the medical side of things too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think one of the really big reasons that we even wanted to have this discussion is because there's a huge problem in the beauty industry. And that's really what we wanted to be able to highlight today is, let's talk about this problem a little bit more, and let's make sure that we are providing some actual obtainable, realistic solutions that all of us can use, whether, again, you're coloring your hair or not, because this is something that all of us are using some sort of cleaning agent, whether it's shampoo or, whatever it is. So.
The main problem, at least in my opinion, the main problem is that there is practically zero regulation over the beauty industry. The FDA does not have the ability to recall an item. They only have the ability to ask to have it recalled, which is very awkward. They have to politely ask. And just in my experience, I've now heard of multiple brands who have had issues, who maybe they had a class action lawsuit, maybe people's hair fell out, maybe there was a makeup brand that had asbestos in it that was for children. And yet the FDA they have no regulation to do anything about it. So that comes down to then learning about your brands and who's really responsible and educating yourselves so that you can feel empowered when you're making choices.
Yeah, that's huge. When we hear about the FDA being involved in, food and supplements and medications, and it never honestly occurred to me to even think about that side of it or look into it, and I was shocked. So it's alarming. And now trying to figure out okay, well then what can we do about it to make sure that since there isn't somebody else who is helping to keep products clean, what choices can we make?
Yeah. Well, what choices can we make?
Yeah. You tell us, what should we really be looking at? What are questions that we should be asking? Maybe let's talk about
how I pick a brand or how I dissect the brand, because I think you guys can all kind of do this as well. So I start at the top. And so for me, I pick brands that I would use professionally behind the chair and that I would retail to my guests. So I want to know that I feel comfortable offering that to my guests. So I look at who's responsible, who is this company, who created it? Because in my opinion, if there's a person that I can put behind this, that person does not want to be sued, right? And I feel like in my experience, I've found more brands that are owned by a hairstylist or more brands who are owned by an individual or were started by an individual. They have a little bit more personal responsibility and they do a little bit more third-party research to make sure their stuff is clean because there's liability there. I then look at the quality of the ingredients and whether or not I think that they're quality ingredients that should be going on your hair and what the purpose is of each ingredient. The transparency they have behind telling you about the ingredients. So one of the brands I use is Hair Story. They make a thing called New Wash, which is how I wash my hair. And on their website, I really love that they have their full ingredient disclosure and you can actually scroll over each ingredient and it tells you why it's there.
I like that.
So it doesn't just have all of those terms where you're like settle, butyl, but oh, is that good? I don't know. But you can scroll over and it'll say, this is a cleansing agent. This is added for scent. This is added for that.
Yeah.
So transparency, I think, is a big one because there are some brands where they're not as transparent and it's for a good reason. For me personally, I also like packaging that is recyclable. The beauty industry is one of the industries that creates the most waste. We have a lot of plastic, tubes of color, foils, meshes, all the things. So if I can be more sustainable in some ways, I'll try to be. There's a brand that I use called Reverie, and they have all glass packaging. It's actually a brand made in California, and it was made by a hairstylist. And if you go to their website, they tell you step by step how to recycle every piece of their packaging.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, you can feel kind of good about that. And it's not important, but performance is lower on the list for me because you can manipulate things to perform better. You can cocktail ingredients together. So you can mix two products to make things, either looser or stickier, or more hold or less hold. The performance of an individual ingredient, it's like, I'll take it. It's going to work if it has good ingredients anyways. And then scent for me is not a big deal. I try to have things that are more essential oil fragrance rather than fragrance or perfume. And we can talk about why, because fragrance is pretty much a banner term for, I don't know how many things can fit under fragrance.
It's kind of like natural flavors or some of those things to where you can get away with a lot by just putting fragrance.
So if they don't know where to put it on the label, they can literally just put it under fragrance. And fragrance does not have to be disclosed because it's considered a trade secret. Well, every brand who has fragrance or perfume, there could be 1,000 more ingredients that you don't even know of that are in that.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, so many things have a smell. So it almost, you would think, okay, I guess I could technically go under fragrance, but they're actually using it maybe for other reasons.
Yeah.
So that's why I like definitely the transparency of listing each of the ingredients.
It reminds me of like the environmental working group, which is what I do for a lot of products. If I don't know, then I'll look at each of the different things. And that's one of the things we'll talk about in terms of, action steps for us at home. But I like that New Wash did it for you.
Yeah. They're really
that's
big
what
on
I need. I just
transparency.
I want someone to be like, all right, break it down for me. You do the work.
Well, and then also, if we want to think about on a global level how products are impacting people and the environment, Reverie also they have transparency about where their ingredients are coming from. So you may not know that mica is in a lot of products. It's in a lot of makeup. It's what makes shimmer. And so it's in a lot of pressed powders and a lot of eyeshadows, and ethically sourced mica is really important because it's a whole market where there's like a lot of exploitation. People are not being fairly paid. Children are working and all that stuff. So Reverie is really great about supporting, they specifically support female owned businesses, and they have relationships with like where they get their shea, where they get, all of their ingredients. They have relationships with those people and they fairly pay them. So
I think it's important.
And
that impact, right?
That's similar to a lot of supplement companies that we really try to utilize too, that there's all the quality controls and where is this coming from? Because ashwagandha, can come from a lot of different places. And and that's really important to us too in the supplement world.
Yeah. And it's not the consumer's responsibility to research the brand and be like, okay, where is this mica from?
Right.
But if you find a brand where from the top, you're like, okay, that's why you start with the top. Who's the company? Who created it? When you start with people who have responsibility from the top and you work your way down, you're going to find that responsibility all throughout the product, not just with like, oh, we're recyclable, but we don't care about anything else. It tends to go hand in hand. So finding the brand itself or finding a professional that can help you find the brands. So if I was looking for a supplement, I wouldn't go to Google and try to look myself.
Thank you.
I would WebMD. No, not a good one. I would turn to the people who have already done most of the legwork, right? And then from there, you probably don't just have one thing. You probably have a few brands that you like. And so same with me, when clients come to me and they're like, I don't know, I have this problem. I can be like, here's 4 different brands. If you like bubbles, here's bubbles. If you don't care about bubbles, here's something that doesn't have bubbles. And then these are the differences between them and kind of letting them choose for themselves. Like some people might want to be really sustainable as far as their packaging goes. Some people may not care.
Yeah. I think that's really important to be able to also identify what your value is. And you do a great job of this, of being able to say like, okay, here's what's important to me. Like, here's what I am really looking for, whether it is somebody who really wants to make sure that nothing was tested on animals, or if somebody wants to make sure that a product is vegan versus recyclable versus, ethically sourced, like being able to say, okay, or fragrance free, what am I really looking for in my product? And then what are the brands that are aligned with my values? Yeah. I think that's a really important piece that I don't think I would have otherwise even really thought about. Because when I first, came to you, it was, I want to make sure somebody can cover up my gray hair or at least blend it. And I don't want to look like I have this like harsh line grow out. But then as we've been able to have these conversations, it really has made me more aware and kind of the whys behind choosing something. I think that's really, it's having a value.
Guide.
That's
Just
right.
the whole beauty guide.
Yes.
Some of these brands, because my big thing is convenience.
Yes.
So where do you
And I'm sure
people go?
Yeah. And I'm sure you want authenticity too. So you don't want to invest your money and get something completely random.
Right.
So my best suggestion would be offering from the brand itself, or finding out. So
go directly to their website.
You can, if you know a stylist who sells it, you can go through the stylist. So this whole side of our industry is kind of interesting too. And we won't go down this rabbit hole too much because everything's a rabbit hole. So we're on the ingredients rabbit hole, but the distribution rabbit hole of the whole gray market of selling beauty products, things you find on Amazon, things you find at certain stores. You have
Target. I'm just thinking of all like the convenience that people go regularly.
Let's use the grocery store maybe as an example too. So you could go to Vons or like Safeway and you're going to be like, but Kerastase is Vons or Safeway. Like, of course it has to be good, right? And it's like the journey that product took to get there is probably not the best. And so a lot of times coming from the brand, it usually goes either directly from brand to stylist to consumer or brand to consumer. Usually stylists are in the middle still, or it goes brand distributor, stylist, consumer. So if it's not coming through a distributor, and those are like our professional distributors that stylists go through, it's where we buy our color and stuff like that, then you would, if you go directly through the brand, it's your safest. If you go through a stylist, it's safe too. But if you're going into any of these other third-party places where like my beauty supplier does not sell to Target, right? And neither does Amazon. So you don't really know the journey that it took to get there. So you want to make sure if you're investing money that, you're getting your
what is the
legitimate
concern
stuff.
with that? Like, because I know in the supplement world, a concern is we don't know if it is stored in somebody's garage that's hot and that's,
That's the example I use.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Or they
some
put a
of it is
completely
how
different
they
label.
store it, or is this not even it? And they just have the label. Or it's actually getting ready to expire. So it's similar.
All the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So there's also, I worked at a large salon when I was in high school up in Washington. And we used to get people that would buy, back then it was really expensive, shampoos and conditioners. There's not a safety seal on most shampoos and conditioners. And a safety seal is that peel off, where you'll know that it's gone, or like the foil seal. People would buy like the hair mask. They'd go home and they would fill it with mayonnaise and then they would try to return it.
What?
And because I remember hearing one time, like somebody was like, this is mayo. And you're like, what? Like, who does that? Wow.
But now that you
there's
mentioned
so many weird
okay.
things that people do, right? And a long time ago, I had a client back when Olaplex was first on the market and it was like this hot thing. She bought the treatment from Amazon. And I was like, did you buy it directly from some brands will actually infiltrate the Amazon market, which Hair Story has done, which is really cool. And since they're there, other people can't sell it. So a lot of times brands don't want to be on there, but if they can have an agreement where other people can't be selling their product, it kind of protects us. So you can always look at who is the seller. And she just bought whatever the cheapest offering was. And she brought it in. We did a side-by-side comparison. It was definitely not the authentic one. She said her hair felt like glue. And it definitely felt...
Like, it is glue,
it might be Elmer's. We don't know.
Wow.
But that's the scary thing, right? And then she was like, but it did have the seal. And I worked retail. People will buy tagging guns. People can buy, people can mimic things anyways. So knowing who you're buying from, you might as well. A lot of the stuff is expensive anyways. And if you're going to buy it, you want it to work and you want it to be real.
All the more important. It's almost like spend 20 more cents or spend 20 more seconds of going directly to the company for that.
Let's talk a little bit about if we're not buying directly from a stylist or from the company, and say we go into one of our natural food stores, Whole Foods, PCC up in Washington, is it safe to assume that those are going to be clean, natural ingredients or products?
I mean, I guess you'd have to look into who the brand is, right? For me personally, I don't get too much into those because a lot of times they're not color safe or things that I would recommend to clients. There's greenwashing everywhere though. So especially in stores like Whole Foods or PCC or Sprouts is here. Went to Sprouts, was so good.
Can you elaborate about greenwashing? Like what is greenwashing?
Greenwashing is advertising that something is clean, but it's not. Like it's the whole it's the labeling. It's putting a leaf on something. It's making it amber glass, but maybe it's amber plastic. Like it's the appearance of being green without actually being green. And an example I use for that all the time is Aveda. Aveda is a very commercial brand, which advertises as like, we are the clean brand. And if you really dive into their ingredients and their practices, they're really not. So,
well, I know for longer than I want to admit, I use Pureology because it said pure. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. And so it was like about a year later that then I finally was like, I get it off the shelf and I look at the back and I'm like, wait a minute, there's a bunch of garbage in this. And I've been using this for a long time. And like, again, I know for the supplement world of what I'm putting internally, like just to be, have some extra like skepticism and so forth. But then, that was like such a moment to me to be like, gosh, I'm working so hard on my health and everything. And then something that I do on a daily basis. And I think that this is why this is so important too, is that our routines and our habits, it adds up. Because it could all of a sudden be like, okay, now it's years later, know, and again, it's like so many of us are, creatures of habit and just, okay, we just buy at the same place. This is what we do, rinse and repeat, go on to other things. But it's important to slow down every once in a while and question some of the things that we do.
Well, and hairstylists are kind of like an accelerated experiment of this because of how much contact we have with things. And from my personal standpoint, there's a color line that I'll admit I still use because it works. Right. And there is really no clean chemicals. They're all chemicals, but there's a color line that I've started to associate with like stomach issues. And so I know if I use this color line more than a couple times in a day, my stomach kind of turns. And so I'm like, it's like the only thing I'm starting to piece together, right? And then from knowing other stylists, there's so many of us that have hand rashes. There's so many of us that are like, I can't use that shampoo anymore because I shampooed so many people with it that I'm now sensitive to it.
Yep.
And so prolonged exposure, frequency of exposure also matters. Can one of you talk about what happens when chemicals go on your skin and like how this is not just a cosmetic thing, but how this actually affects you medically?
Yeah, so either one of us can speak on this, but I immediately go to how I prescribe bioidentical hormones and use hormones quite a bit. And a lot of times it's a transdermal application.
Yep.
And it's amazing how quickly it's absorbed and it, affects us systemically. Yep. So yeah, immediately I'm just like, it's amazing how, and just even small amount of hormone dosage changes, how big of an impact that can be.
Yep.
And
or where it's applied to.
And where it's applied.
Yeah.
And so absolutely it can affect us systemically pretty quickly. So not even, so one is clearly if you have a rash or eczema or, dermatitis or itching, you're going to kind of know right away, but it could definitely just after just even a few minutes of application with it affect us systemically.
Yeah.
So it could trigger inflammations, a histamine response. Yeah.
Joint pain, digestive. Yes, because you're absorbing it. It is I don't know exact percentages, but you absorb a significant amount through our skin. And so if you're doing something daily, there's going to be a cumulative effect into it.
Which on a consumer standpoint, some people are shampooing and conditioning daily, as well as using body wash, body lotion daily, deodorant, makeup. Do you mind if I bring up the docu-series?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a docu-series right now on HBO Max called Not So Pretty. And there's multiple episodes. I don't know if anybody's watched it yet, but I binged it the first night it came out because it's just so interesting. Like one person ended up having cancer and she did her makeup multiple times a day from the time she was a child and she became a makeup artist and all this stuff. And then there's a doctor on there who her and her husband were having fertility issues. And so they talked a lot about hormone disruptors, and those are usually phthalates. I think I said it correctly.
There's a whole lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. That is one, but yes, there are a lot.
So in that episode, they went down the rabbit hole of hormone disruptors because her husband produced no sperm, and that was what they could attribute it to. And they went through all of the products in the household. And they were like his body wash, his deodorant, his hair products, scented garbage can liners they don't use anymore. Like if you think about as a person, not just with our beauty products, but with everything we touch daily, it's all compounding. So we're so quick to change like our food and maybe our supplements, but we don't really think to change the other things, right?
Yeah.
I always joke that like the same people that are, selling like either a, supplement brand or something like that are the same ones that go home and use Bath and Body Works and burn a white candle, like a heavily fragranced candle.
Yeah. Just name like the top 3 commonly mistakes that you see from just regular consumers when it comes to hair products or what would you say the top 3
mistakes in what they're selecting?
Yeah. Or that you see. Yeah. With the general population.
One is not thinking that it matters. I think that's a big one because I've had some clients that are so healthy in all the ways. And then they're like, I'll use Pantene. They don't care. It matters. 2 is thinking it doesn't matter for children because they're like, well, my teenage daughter is just going to use so much of it anyways. Like maybe we teach her how much to use and we teach her how to properly shampoo her hair and don't give her the stuff that's going to start with hormone disrupting at such a vital age. Right.
And then early puberty. That's a really great example of, the action steps we can do. Sorry to cut off.
No, you're fine. Because, when I was 12 and I remember herbal essences, right? Where I was oh, what flavor did you guys get?
Yeah.
Like I got the flowers, and so you can't undo it. Like I can't undo it now. And I think that thinking that it doesn't matter for children is a really big one.
So just being proactive.
Yeah. Just at least having the awareness around it, the false sense of security, thinking that someone else is approving it or taking it off the market. Oh gosh, there's another one. There's so many.
Yeah, I like the idea of really not only making sure that we're taking these action steps for us as adults, but teaching our kids now. Like I didn't know any of that growing up.
Many adults who don't know how to wash their hair.
Yes.
How do you wash your hair? Let's stop.
Yeah.
First question.
Okay. Do you really want to know?
Yeah, I want to know.
So lots of water in your hair. And I always tell people, so professional products, yes, they do cost more. And that's always a thing that people bring up is, well, I'm not going to spend we'll use Olaplex as an example. It's 28 and it's also not a clean brand, but we'll use that as an example because you're fine. But we can talk about options.
Yeah.
But a little bit goes such a long ways. And so if you've ever used a professional brand, a little bit goes a long ways. And so overuse is a big issue. Lots of water in the hair, a little bit of product, and you shampoo just your scalp. The Herbal Essences commercials have tainted all of us because big foam and all of their hair in a ball on top of their head. You don't need to cleanse your ends. Like, it's okay. And so then you rinse and wash, rinse, repeat. So repeat, wash a second time, just your scalp, and then wring the water out of your ends and put your conditioner on your ponytail. So about ears down. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay.
And I noticed a huge difference after she re-taught me in my scalp because I was getting too much buildup. And then so when I started really washing my scalp, I noticed a huge difference. And so going back to like the reteaching with the kids, like these are things that I've now taught my 6-year-old in the shower of, okay, it's not about, rubbing all over your hair. Let's make sure, because I don't know about you guys, but my kids love to have like their booty out and like barely touching their hair to the shower. And I'm like, get under.
They don't want to get it in their eyes.
Yes. I'm like, get under there. And like, let's really, I always tell her like, we're going to salon wash your hair. So like I'll get in there and really try to clean her scalp. But even with my teenager, she's entering that age where there's a lot of hormones that are also going to have a huge play, which is probably a different part of this conversation, but really talking to her about, taking care of her hair now, and that the choices that we all make with some of the things that we're using are going to make a big difference in the long run. And so, yes, it's going to cost more, but I would so much rather teach her how much to use, what products to use. And so that's where I'm trying to apply some of this new information to teach her, like it's about this next generation too, in addition to ourselves.
But if she's using the appropriate amount, maybe it wouldn't cost more.
No, true.
Right,
Very
right.
true.
Yeah, because I even feel like my brain went to like laundry detergent.
Yes.
Like how often it's like, yeah, it says you just need this much, but for like, it just, I think that
pour the whole thing in.
Yeah. It's like this whole, but they give you this cup. So it's like, you feel like you need to like, cups half full kind of a thing,
Yep. Yep.
And so I think the same thing probably with how I'm probably using too much shampoo as well. Okay, but one other question about how do you just wash your hair? Because I love like relearning the basics. How much time for shampoo? Like, should you put shampoo and then wait a while?
It depends on what you're using, because what I use on myself it's called New Wash. And so it feels like you're washing your hair with conditioner. It's thick. It doesn't have any foam. It has no sodium lauryl sulfates. One of the things that I saw after my thyroid, and I think this can happen too, like I only have half a thyroid, but I think this can happen just if you have like Hashimoto's and other things that throw your thyroid off. My scalp became so sensitive. First of all, my face became super dry. And it was funny when they called me and they were trying to see if like my levels were off. They were like, "Are you tired?" And I was like, "I'm always tired." And so like all the symptoms I couldn't piece together until they were like, "Is your hair dry?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, it is. It's dry." So for me, I use a different type of product that doesn't strip my scalp. It actually leaves behind all of my natural oils and it keeps a more balanced situation for me. So for me, I do let it sit. For other people, if I'm thinking of something with bubbles, the thing that I would tell you to let sit longer is actually your conditioner. Some people, like when they shampoo, they just go scrub, 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 rinse, rinse, rinse. You do want to make sure that like as you're scrubbing, you're like going around your ears, you're going under your occipital bone back here. It's just this guy. This is where we sweat, right? And so if you think about when you work out, you really want to get at all the places that you would be sweating. So taking a minute, and then that second shampoo is really the insurance policy that you're really going to get that, especially if you go multiple days between shampooing. Washing once kind of breaks up your dirt and oil, and you'll notice on your second wash that you get a lot more movement, you get a little bit more suds because you're not being overtaken with your oils still.
Well, we have a ton of patients that have Hashimoto's and hyperthyroidism. And so yes, with an underactive thyroid, it's very common to have dry hair, dry skin. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just already thinking as far as for our patients, like they want to know, okay, well, what brand then is not going to like, so what do you use?
Yeah. The product I was just talking about is called, the brand is Hair Story. The product is called New Wash, and they have 3 different formulas. They have one that's rich, which is for drier hair, sometimes curly hair. And then they have one that's called just the regular, which is what I use. And then they have deep, which is for people who have overactive oil production. Mm-hmm. And so that could be great for teenagers.
Maybe teens, yeah.
And I think there's some conditions where like if your hormones are off, you'll produce a little bit more oil.
Mm-hmm.
And I recommend if clients do use deep, I tell them to use regular and deep both, maybe alternating, just so the main difference is that there's apple cider vinegar in the deep. So it's just a little bit more cleansing. I personally love it. I've used it for about 2 years now. as a company, they're super transparent. It was actually created by a woman who had scalp psoriasis, and she's a mom. Her whole family uses it. And like, I'm a new aunt, and like, they're both one's a month old and one's 8 months old. And so I'm already like, what are you washing them with? Show me what you got here. And I was like, is it too young for new wash? Like, I don't want them to have, stuff.
Yeah.
I will freak out. I will audit their products.
Yes.
So one thing that I commonly do is I will, especially when I feel overwhelmed with, oh my goodness, like what all do I need to be looking for, is how some of these are very transparent of saying paraben free, sulfate free, mineral oil free, formaldehyde free, cruelty free, So that is kind of a nice thing to be like, okay, all right. But I guess you can't always trust or believe that either.
Well, yeah. In that documentary, they actually showed that Johnson & Johnson, I think they jumped on the phthalate-free bandwagon. But then when they tested the products, they still had phthalates in them.
Oh.
So,
because it has to be under a certain amount to be able to say it's free.
I see.
So,
Okay.
I mean,
so even though it has this, it's still,
could.
Yeah.
But that's where you would start at the top, right?
Yeah.
So what's the brand? And then you would look into this brand. If you really want to, you can look into the brand and be like, okay, who are these people? Who owns this? Are they accountable? Are they trustworthy? Do they do third-party testing? Right. We can talk about too, if you want, like really where to go with this information now that we kind of know that like nothing is clean. Really, even the clean stuff, there's still going to be something, right? And so, how do we
have a question too?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to get up close here. Okay. Yeah. So one question is if you could mention maybe some products that may be affordable for daily use, especially for like teenager sons, the clean skincare and shampoos that she's buying, are really expensive. So, and then same thing, with just saying about how GMOs is this conversation is applicable.
Yeah.
For sure.
teenage sons?
Could you consider something like New Wash? For
Absolutely.
them? Yeah.
I mean, I've been trying to get both of my brothers actually to try New Wash because in our family, eczema, psoriasis, dry skin, all that stuff just runs in the family. I think especially for men, it's really easy because they have short hair. It's easy for them to apply. It's easy for them. Most of the time they have short hair. That's a stereotype, but it's also easier for them to rinse. There's also, they now make shampoo bars, which I don't usually recommend for women because a lot of times women will use them wrong and then it creates a whole thing for their hair. If you are a woman and you want to use a shampoo bar, you lather in your hands with the bar and then you apply to your hair. You don't take the bar to your hair and do that because you'll cause breakage. But a shampoo bar for men would be fantastic.
Stable, less packaging.
Exactly. And for teenage boys, I feel like it actually would be way easier for them. Just rub it on your head, dude. You're fine. And especially if your hair's short, you're not going to be creating a lot of friction and breakage. If your hair's curly, you might consider putting it in your hands first, just to not cause that friction and kind of separate your curls. But that's what I would probably recommend.
Or maybe teaching them actual quantity, like we were mentioning before. It's not necessarily that the product itself is so expensive, overall. I mean, it is, but
I look at.
And I think that's a good point too.
And especially as somebody who grew up between two brothers and like I worked at the fancy salon when I was like 16. I bought my own products with my paycheck. And I remember like I would use a dime size because that's what they told me. You need a dime size. And that's what I would use. And I would have a product in my shower for like a week. And I would be like, where has it gone? And my brothers would be like, oh, I used it as body wash. Like, oh, come on. So educating our boys just as much as our girls, especially around skincare, sunscreen wearing, hair care, all the things I think is super important. And I mean, let's not to mention teenage boys, stereotypically Axe body spray. We need to cut that off right now.
Hi, it's funny that you mentioned that. Hello.
Hi.
Because my boys ask me every day if they can please use Axe. And I tell them, no, we can't, it's not allowed. And I explain, but they think that I'm just overly strict, but I don't allow it. And so it creates an issue. And so that's like, what works? It's really tough.
Yeah. And that's a hard one because you're not going to be like, let's go find you an all natural fragrance.
Right. Exactly.
It's amazing what marketing and branding can do and the psychology of all of this. And
yes,
I just was watching, maybe it was on Netflix or something about Abercrombie.
Yes, I was just going to bring that up.
Yes. And I about how that was such like a upbringing thing.
I wasn't cute enough to work there.
It's just amazing how to be like in the in crowd.
Yes.
So much, and especially as a teenager, you're like so many things. You're just impressionable and it's
well, and to be fair, teenage boys, they do smell. So I get their want to maybe try to have it be something else. But, we can teach good hygiene. We can teach good
essential oil.
Deodorant using how to, you could get a charcoal bar for the shower, right?
Yeah.
There's a brand that I sell called Colton King, and they're a very clean brand as well. And they actually sell a bar soap, which for boys, I would say, especially if they have short hair, it would be okay. For girls, no go on the hair or the face. I use it as a body wash though. It's usually my travel soap. I just love their soap, and it's very clean and very transparent about what's in it. And it comes in metal tins, so you just refill.
Can we, I think because I'm just like, oh gosh, I need to watch this playback so I can write down.
Yeah.
Maybe we can put a handout together of just some of our favorite brands for just shampoo and so forth and body wash and stuff.
And I also have a discount code for anybody who's attending for Hair Story. So if you like what you see on their website and scrolling over the ingredients, they created a special discount code for, I think it's for the next week for you guys.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Make sure
that will be helpful because I'm already I need to be writing this down.
Well, one of the ones, Colton King, that I really like, it's a scalp tonic.
Yep.
And I remember this was, one of our first times, or maybe it was even in that meet and greet appointment visit, whatever you want to call it. And she turned it over and she read through the ingredients, and then it's in a black glass bottle, and it has you can buy just the refillable things. And I thought that was so cool. I had never seen that in another product before, and it smells so good. And it's just the best.
I wish that I had this guy's story completely memorized, but the guy who created Colton King is a hairstylist. And he actually when he shares his story about how he came to creating this brand, he had low testosterone. And the only thing that he could equate it to was products every day on his hands, every day in the air. And so he started researching this stuff for himself. And that's how he ended up creating a brand. So when I hear stories like that, I'm like, yes, I want to support you. Right. And then on an environmental level, all of their packaging is glass, and then everything comes refillable, and they teach you how to wash the bottle if you need to wash the bottle. And it's just fantastic. And tonic especially is really great, especially I think it's great for women and men both. It has salicylic acid in it, which cleanses your scalp a little bit more. A scalp treatment product has become more popular lately. And I think it's one of the most overlooked products because I think it's almost like treating flower petals rather than the roots. These are your petals versus your roots. Our hair grows from our scalp. And so a lot of times if we're experiencing issues with hair growth or shed or anything like that, it's internal. And tonic is great because it has something in it that helps dissolve DHT, which is produced by women and men both. And it's when guys go bald, it's what makes them shiny and squeaky. Seals off their follicle. When women start to overproduce DHT, we start to see our follicles get tight, and then our scalps, it kind of spreads out. So you see more space between your follicles because everything tightens up.
So I've heard that obviously the vascular blood flow is so important for hair growth. And I have a lot of patients that have either hair thinning or hair loss. And so really wanting to make sure that they wash away any of that DHT buildup.
Yeah.
So, because from my experience clinically is that it's not necessarily about what is the DHT number on blood work.
Yeah.
Some people are more sensitive. It's almost the DHT sensitivity more than a particular number, which a number would be kind of nice and easy. You do the blood work and it'd be like, oh, you have a buildup of DHT, but I'm not seeing that clinically is that sometimes it's not necessarily that way. So it's not a simple blood test that we can necessarily do. So, and I think that that's why too, the scalp work is so important to help wash that away and help bring almost the vasodilation of bring nutrients in and be able to flush out that DHT buildup.
And this is why brushing your hair, but also mostly brushing your scalp massage. There's a lot of companies now are also coming out with brushes. Hair Story has one, Reverie has one. You can probably buy a silicone brush on Amazon or a Target. Tools and stuff like that, I'm not as particular about. You just want to make sure it's something that will glide in the hair and not snag the hair. And when you're shampooing, that's why we're focusing on our scalps, right? That's part of the process is, not just cleansing the dirt and oil away, but bringing back that blood flow. I have some clients that wear really high, tight ponytails all the time. And I had her just recently. It's one of my friends, and she wore a high, tight ponytail to her service. And when I shampoo her hair or her head, really, she's always like, oh my gosh, I feel it so much. And it's the nerves are being woken up, right? And if when you touch your head, if you get that nervy feeling, almost like when your leg falls asleep and somebody smacks it, that means you have too much tension going on there. So it's a great ritual to do. There's a lot of brands that also make scalp growth oils that I would do it the night before you wash, because you're not going to want to like leave that all in there.
Sorry.
But no, you're good. You would put it to your scalp, and then you can even, have you seen gua sha for your face? There's some people coming out with, they almost look like combs made out of stone or something where you can, and it feels so good. I mean, if you can convince someone else to do it for you, if you have children, put them to work. It would, I mean, it's great. It's hair loss is hardly ever a product that you use one time. Don't watch TikTok, because you'll find somebody crying about a product that they used one time that made them bald. If it's a product, and it's usually not. If it's a product, you would have to use it consistently for an extended period of time, because your hair is also on a growth cycle. Hair doesn't stop the cycle the next day and fall out. I mean, if you use Nair, maybe.
Unless it's like a big chemical burn or you overprocess.
Yeah, and that's more to the scalp. But if you're going to lose hair from like post-surgery, a lot of times people have hair shed because there's trauma to the system, or they're, processing like anesthesia and stuff like that. Anytime I've had a surgery, I lose a little bit more hair, but it's not for a couple of weeks post. So treating your scalp is probably one of the most important things.
Yeah, great. I've also heard that sometimes the natural products aren't strong enough. So it's like, okay, I have this huge list of all these like great, clean, wonderful things, but then what happens is it's not strong enough to wash away that DHT buildup. So I think that that's something too that I could see some people, like you might be swinging the pendulum too far, and then it's not as far as like, does it work? So as far as, just the important qualities and things to look out for, but then also does it work?
Is it working for what you need it to
Well,
do?
because, I mean, for me personally, I don't enjoy bubbles on my hair, because I've now connected that over cleanse is what irritates my scalp. But for some people, maybe they really want that. There's going to be alcohol in pretty much everything. And that's because that's more of a stripping agent. And then there's going to be something that creates condition in everything. It's the balance of the two. It's the quality of the two. A lot of times what we see in like a brand like Pantene is too much stripping. So you get that squeaky clean, and then too much coating. So you get the slip in the shower where you're like, wow, my hair's so soft. It's so healthy. And of course their advertising really pushes towards that. But what you're starting to do is you're over stripping, over coating. And then when you wash again, it can't take away all that coating. So then it's overstripping and coating even more, and overstripping and coating even more, until you get to this super imbalanced feel where your hair is almost, I messaged Chelsea because I was like, oh, we have to remember to bring this up. When I see little girls that have used like Pantene or something like that for a long time, I call it doll hair. Like they look like they have literal Barbie hair because it's so coated, it's shiny.
Plastic.
Yes. And it looks like plastic. That's where tangles come from. That's, from my perspective, if I put lightener on somebody's hair that has that coating, the lightener interacts or has to eat through that. And so that can create a whole thing with adding color services to it as well. So I mean, you do need it to work, and maybe it's just not the right natural product for that person.
Right.
Yeah.
I know, it's so amazing. I mean, back to just how much marketing and just this world is kind of the wild, wild west a little bit. So I have to admit something that I'm curious on your take on this. So there was a while there that they said, we actually don't need to shampoo. So everyone should just not. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I heard this for some time, and I was like,
the no poo movement.
Was it called the no poo?
No poo.
Oh, that's hilarious. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, well, if I'm going to try this, now's a good time because I'm working from home. So I didn't shampoo my hair for 3+ months.
Dang.
What?
And what were your findings?
I just gave it a try. My findings is that my experiment failed. Again, maybe
3 months is a really long time.
You committed.
I did it. I was like, if I'm going to do this.
I tried for like 3 days.
No, I did it for like 3 months. No. So I did it.
But I thought it was like,
so what did you do instead? Did you just get in the shower and like rinse with water and then use conditioner?
Yeah, I did. I still use conditioner. Did I or did I not? I don't know. I can't remember.
I'm intrigued.
But anyway, I just really wanted to, like, if I was going to do this so then I can make my recommendations or not, let's do it. And the pandemic was kind of an appropriate time to do this.
Yeah.
No, my hair was oily. I mean, to be honest, like it didn't look good. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to stick through this. I'm just going to keep going kind of a thing. And it just didn't work.
The way that came out, like the reason why the whole no poo thing happened was I think a lot of curly girls were the ones that started it. We'll blame the curly girls. But I mean, with curl though, like you have a little bit more hair to distribute the oil throughout. It sits up off the scalp a little bit more. So as opposed to us like fine straight haired girls, if I'm greasy, this is going to absorb, right? But my best friend has really curly hair, and so it hides everything, right? She can go multiple days, and her ends get a little bit drier just because of that. But so it started with that. And when you use things that bubble, like that have sodium lauryl sulfate is the bubbling agent, usually, it will strip your natural oils, and then it makes you even drier. So their solution was, let's not strip our natural oils because that helps, right? But then what you get is product buildup, sweat, dirt, environmental toxins, and stuff like that. Like if you live by a freeway, you're going to even get some of that stuff, right? As a better solution, I would say, is something that maybe doesn't have sodium lauryl sulfate. And there are some brands that, like, I recommend to clients. It's funny, people love bubbles. They love them. They feel like it's doing more.
Yeah, I feel like I know that I actually wash my scalp.
Yeah. And, you know, in a way, it is easier to wash with that, right? Because it spreads better and all that good stuff. And there's a brand I carry, I believe it's like an alpha hydroxy acid that it washes with instead. And so it has like a very low foam. It almost feels like, there's no bubble, but there's almost like a suds or something to it. And when I first introduced it, so many clients were like, I mean, it's fine, but it doesn't bubble. I just can't, you know? And so I found that people either want to go hard one way or hard the other way. They either want no bubbles at all, or they want full bubbles. So my solution for myself is no bubbles at all.
So what's your recommendation in terms of like frequency of washing? So not going 3 months, but
This is all for today's lecture.
Yeah.
You're committed to the process.
That's right. That my experiment failed.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, I mean, that's all dependent on lifestyle as well. And personally, like how much oil you produce. I could give an example. If you are an everyday washer and you're trying to wash less, like a way of getting there, an overuse of dry shampoo. So a lot of times people use dry shampoo thinking that it's going to help them. A lot of times dry shampoo actually makes the cycle worse. So depending on the dry shampoo, which I will tell you, Batiste from Target is a no-go. I've seen people with full-on like scalp irritation from overusing dry shampoo, because a lot of times they come in aerosols, and what I'll see people do is they'll hold it up and they'll put it right at their scalp. They'll literally spray it right here. You can actually get a chemical burn from using too much in multiple days in a row. So dry shampoo, if you can, stop using dry shampoo or using it as often. I think that will help kind of start the cycle in a better way.
And should you spray further out? Okay.
If you actually hand me that can, I wouldn't spray with this product. But a good example of how to tell is you want to see how far away from your head the can is. And that's usually how far away you want to spray from.
Wow.
Yeah.
That seems, a little far. But
I guess unless it's a travel size, but.
Right. No, that's a good.
Well, and there's also dry shampoos. There's a lot of dry shampoos that come in a shake, like a powder formula, which for me personally, I find some of them work better for me. And then you're not getting fragrance. You're not getting the propellants that come in aerosol. So they're a little bit more environmentally friendly. Don't use baby powder for obvious reasons. I think we all did when we were teenagers. So yeah, if you're an everyday washer, start with cutting down your frequency of dry shampoo use. And then I would try to go every other day. So that's your first step. Go every other day for like, you can choose how long you want to do this for. You can do it for a week. And if you feel like you're still kind of struggling, do it for one more week. And then for me personally, I wash every 3 days. I don't work out super hard anymore. I used to. And so I used to be, I think I would still try to be every 3 at that point. But there's some people that can go 7. And if you're not going to hot yoga every day and creating a bunch of bacteria and sweat on your scalp, I don't see a reason why not to, but you do need to have like a treatment routine on the days that you're not washing. So if you're not washing, you don't just like wake up and go about your day. You should wake up. Brushing is great. Like, so if you get out your hairbrush and you start at the ends and you work your way up, you're going to work out all your tangles. And so once your tangles are worked out, then for me personally, I brush all one direction and then I flip all my hair and I brush all the other direction. And then I go upside down. And so I brush all of this forward and then I pop my head up. And usually if you shake it, your part will fall where it normally falls.
Why do you do that?
Yeah. So
I mean, that sounds cool. I'm just curious on why.
A, it feels great. But B, you're redistributing the oils that are already on your scalp. So what I've noticed too is if it's one of my days off and I don't do that for say the first 4 hours of the day, I like do something. I'm just in my bedhead pajama situation. My hair will sit kind of in the oils and how it was. And so one of the benefits of doing that is that you're distributing the oils off your scalp, and your natural oils are what conditions your hair naturally, right? So that's why we don't need to put conditioner up there, but you're moving it down your hair. You're starting to kind of pull it down here. And then if you do have any dry shampoo or product on your scalp, you're also distributing that throughout your hair.
Got
So
it.
it's not just sitting there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's easy. Okay, well, just someone on that. I love I love the basic stuff.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Is there a way we should be blow drying our hair?
Yeah. Yeah.
She taught me a good trick about
Okay.
that extends your washing so that way you don't get the oily hair.
What was it?
Blow drying at least the first 2 inches on your scalp. So that way your hair isn't just stuck to your scalp,
Yes.
because then it's going to absorb all of the oils.
Mhm.
And so even if you don't have time to blow dry your hair entirely, which a lot of times I don't, I will at least, and I've started teaching my teenager to do this, and it's made a huge difference for her too, is that flip your hair over, try to get it off of your scalp, blow dry at least those first 2 inches.
Yeah.
So
So
you're saying of your scalp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of your hair.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm saying not you.
my best tip too is to use a microfiber hair towel. So a lot of times we use bath towels, right, as our hair towel, and it's heavy, right? And then when something's heavy and on your wet hair stretches more than your dry hair. And so it tends to break more, which is why we should be more gentle with it when we're combing it when it's wet. If we're putting it up when it's wet, you should never do a tight high pony or a bun when it's wet, because you're going to stretch your hair and then it's going to eventually start breaking, especially if you're bleached or finer textured. So a microfiber hair towel, there's a brand called Kitsch. I know there's a bunch of other brands that carry them. My hair is pretty long and it used to be longer, and it would still fit into one of those. It's shaped like a teardrop, and you put it around your head. And I usually do it upside down, and you stretch it and then you flip your ends in, give it a turn, and there's a button on the back. So it's just like a little turban, but it pulls the most water out of your hair. So that's a great first
You're
step.
not overuse of using a blow dryer.
Yeah, you would never want to blow dry from dripping wet, because you're almost like making the job way harder for yourself. So a microfiber hair towel while you do like your skincare, while you go make your coffee. And that way, when you do take it out, you put your products through, give it a good comb out. For me personally, I even let it air dry for a couple minutes like that. And then I think my blow dry takes like 10 minutes at the most. So if I were to blow dry from soaking wet, it would probably take me 30.
Yeah.
And then there's less heat on your hair, better results. And if your roots are fluffy, they're not going to be absorbing the oil as much.
Less EMFs. I'm all thinking about other
Yeah.
things about,
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. What about, some people use mousse and then the same thing about then I'll curl my hair with a curling iron. Any other just basic tips there?
Ooh, so like how to create maybe a product routine or like a bare basics product routine. So one way I kind of explain it, and I usually line up my products on my station: scalp treatment, end treatment, scalp styling, end styling. So for me, 4 products is kind of great. Like sounds like a lot, but so for scalp treatment, I love Colton King Tonic, or Reverie has one, especially if you have more like eczema patches or something that's like more irritated. They have a scalp tonic called Cake. And so it's a little dropper. So you do a scalp treatment, and then an end treatment would be like a leave-in conditioner or something that would help you comb out a little bit easier.
And how often do you do that?
Anytime your hair's wet.
Okay.
So anytime you get out of the shower and your hair's wet, I would do scalp treatment, end treatment. And I would do it on wet hair because for your follicles are open. And a lot of times those scalp treatments are also pH balancers. The pH of water and the pH of our hair and scalp are different. So we want to bring it back to where it needs to be. And then leave-in conditioner should only go on wet hair. Otherwise, you'll be putting a wet product on dry hair. And then for me, I love to have a scalp styling thing, just because I do have finer hair and I try to extend it. So I do like a salt spray, or you can do a mousse if you really like the feeling of mousse. You can do a volumizing spray, or you could do nothing. You could leave that one out. And then an end styler would be like a heat protectant. If you're going to use heat on your hair, you should always use a heat protectant. It's like, it's like cooking your chicken without oils, it's just like throwing it in the oven, drying it out. So, and also because our ends are dead. Once your hair leaves the follicle, it's not living anymore. And especially if your hair is longer, you're not receiving your natural oils. Right. So we almost have to create artificial moisture, which is conditioner, but also in styling products. So yeah. And a lot of times with the end treatments, it can be things that smooth out frizz. It can be things that add body as well. And there's lots of products for that. And then finishing, I tell people finishing is kind of up to them. If you're wanting to curl your hair and have it last a week, laying the foundation is really important. And then also your finishing sprays, which
not that one.
Probably not that one.
Listen, so what I did, let's segue to this too real quick. I was home and I grabbed some products. So
first I asked, so I had curled my hair and I said, "Oh, do you have any hairspray?" Because I was traveling and didn't bring anything with me. And so she hands me this. And then afterwards,
you go, "Oh, I can't use this. Alicia's going to know."
No, I should have said that. She was like, "Oh yeah, that's not even mine. That's my husband's." And I was like, Oh yeah, it is crunchy.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I don't use hairspray and I don't use heat protectant. Like
Yeah.
I think I could probably up my game of like taking better care of my hair. So anyway, I'm like, again, I'm really happy to know some of these tips, and some of it is just purely just out of laziness that I'm just like, I don't know. So I'm just not going to do it kind of thing. But my husband, he styles his hair and I know that
I love that.
I mean, he's got sexy hair.
Yeah, he does.
He really does have sexy hair. No, but I would love just to just get him something else and just, off he goes. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so one question too is I avoid brushing due to hair loss. Are there any tips for this? And I think that you kind of talked about that. but-
Brushing won't cause hair loss. It's unfortunately when you brush, you will see what you're really losing because especially if you have any texture in your hair. Curly hair doesn't shed usually until you're in the shower because the curls will hold it still. But brushing itself actually won't be causing your shed. But what you could be lacking then is aiding in that blood circulation of your scalp. So I wouldn't avoid brushing if you feel like it's not the thing that's causing the shed. But it is unfortunately when you're going to see the shed.
unless you're like brushing wet hair that you're using very vigorous.
And that would be more breakage though, because it would be breaking from your ends.
Got it.
There's always a conversation I talk about with clients because I was like, is that breakage or new growth? Is that breakage or new growth? Because I'm always like, ooh, look at all this new growth. And they're like, but is it breakage? So
It's literally the same thing I said to her last time I was in.
yeah, you have new growth.
Yep.
So I can tell you just like real quick, like 3 indicators of what's breakage or what's new growth. Breakage tends to be, it's on a certain piece of your hair. So for a lot of women, it's their front. And a lot of times it's on women who are blonde because we have chemicals. And it's where you have the most aggression. It's where we focus the most heat. It's where we focus when we're brushing. So it tends to be in one particular place. New growth tends to be more consistently all throughout, unless you've lost a patch of hair. So that can be a thing medically where you would then see it regrow in a patch. Postpartum tends to be hairline. It can also be underneath hairline. And then it's a little less all throughout. So that tends to be a little bit more in the halo. Kind of breakage would be more in like a piece.
Mm-hmm.
If you have breakage all over your head, that's a scary thing that you would definitely want to talk to your hairstylist about because it could be chemical breakage, it could be aggression breakage, and they'd probably be able to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your question?
I wanted to know, what are your thoughts on top products for sun damaged or sun impacted hair? Since we're here in California, the sun is very strong. So I wanted to know if you had any tips.
Yeah, that's a
for
good
that or
question.
products.
And since she doesn't have a microphone, I'll just repeat back for you guys that
Okay.
she asked best products for UV damage or protecting hair from the sun. I feel like in Reverie, their milk, but maybe also their oil, not cake. What was the other one? Ever oil. They both have UV protection in them, or one of them has UV protection in them. So there are products that actually have UV protection. There are certain oils that do a better job of protecting against the sun as well. Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
Good question. I would have never thought about that.
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's great to think too, if it's affecting your skin, it's also affecting your hair. A lot of times we look at our skin more, right? Like if your face is dry, you can feel like, oh, like it's tight. Like you feel the uncomfortableness of your skin being dry.
Yeah.
But if your hair is dry, you can't feel it. So a lot of times people ignore dry hair because we can't feel it.
Yeah.
Back to this guy.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I won't get too deep into the brand itself, but one reason why I'm always like, ooh, for sexy hair. Sexy hair is now in every grocery store and at Nordstrom's Rack and at like Kohl's and what are those like TJ Maxx and like all this stuff. So I think about who owns this brand and like, how do they control the distribution of it? A lot of times, even smaller brands, you won't find them in those places because they really care about authenticity and where it's coming from. Some brands turn an eye because they're going to be making more profits. And sometimes there's more gray market distribution of it just because people allow it to. So I start there with it. And then in addition to like how crunchy it is and it really dries out.
Crunchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you get into, I don't even know if I can see the ingredients, but
I think that might be part of the thing is that it's like, can you read this? There's
Yeah.
just so much.
There's so much writing.
Yeah.
and
Lots
it's in
of
every different
precautions.
language.
Oh, I was going to say lots of precautions.
Well, there are lots of precautions, especially if something is an aerosol. All aerosols will be flammable. It's only 55% VOC compliant. So that's exciting.
Wait,
And what does that mean?
Yeah. Oh, what does that mean?
VOCs?
Yeah. No. I mean,
Yeah.
what does that mean by being compliant?
I don't know. I would want them to be more compliant.
Yeah,
though.
right.
Yeah. This is going to be my follow-up question is there a percentile that we would want to look at?
No idea. I've
Okay.
actually even never seen that on a product.
Okay.
But VOCs are pretty terrible.
Yes.
But yeah, just to be like 55% of, but yeah.
Where's the other 45?
Are too.
Yeah.
Or like, should we
So
We can stack them over here.
For me personally, just because there isn't a person behind this, they're overly distributed.
It doesn't even
There
feel
isn't,
good. Like,
yeah, and there isn't a lot of like control over like authenticity. I would say
Mhm.
it's not even a safe one to.
Yeah. Yeah. So the rest of these we've just grabbed from Dr. Stewart's bathroom of like, oh, well, let's maybe run through labels, because that's, a question that a lot of us might have of, all right, now after learning some of these things, how can we go home and look through the products that we have and assess, are these ones that we should keep? Are there ones that we should throw out? Are they ones that we should finish and then replace? And so if you can kind of walk us through some of either the images that are on a label or what we should be looking at, that would be helpful.
So you're going to totally notice which ones are mine versus my husband's too, because he's like, he just, I recognize his brand. I've been doing this since I was a teenager.
Well, so I mean, if you're, say you just randomly pick something up.
Yeah.
And
that was that.
Yeah, you need to know, okay, what does all this mean? If you're at home, feel free to get up and grab a product. On the back, you should see an ingredients list. If you want, you can go to ewg.org.
Yep.
That's where you can look up an ingredient and it'll tell you more about an ingredient. Water being the first ingredient is pretty common. Dilutes everything, but
Fills the bottle.
fills the bottle. I love that aloe is the second ingredient on here. In New Wash, aloe is, I think it's one of the first ingredients as well, because it mimics water, but it has more benefits than putting water in an ingredient. So it's listed in order of most concentration to least concentration. And then you also want to look, I tell everyone about this guy, and I don't know if I should maybe get close and show you guys this little open container with the number inside. So that is actually your expiration date. So products have an expiration date, and it's to my understanding, it's from the time it's open, not necessarily the time it was manufactured or purchased. More natural brands might have an expiration date that's more specific to when it was actually manufactured, because they don't have as many preservatives and chemicals in them. But and the reason why there's an expiration date is because there's chemicals. And so if something is sitting in your shower and it's changing temperature every day as you shower, and it's just sitting there for let's say 2 years, the actual components in the product will change, and the performance of the products will change. So.
Well, and also mold.
Yes.
We have, unfortunately, especially here in California, we have a lot of patients that are very mold sensitive and really struggling with mycotoxins.
Yes.
So I think that's one thing too, to make sure, if you've been keeping it for a while, to toss it.
Well, and if it's a makeup situation too, if it's something that your hands touch, then you have the bacteria of your hands going into something every time. And so there are products like men's products where you put your hands into the product. If you want to be more conscious of that, you could probably buy a spatula, or you could use a popsicle stick or something like that to actually fish it out. Guys don't do that though.
I was just trying to think if I thought my husband would do that.
I mean,
don't think
on this label, it literally says keep away from children.
Nice.
So
it does, in gold. And we have 2 young children.
Do you think because they will eat it, or because
maybe.
I wonder why?
I mean,
or maybe they don't want them
avoid
style
eye contact.
or
those
maybe
things
that.
you want to avoid eye contact.
Sure.
Yeah.
But no, it is in all, it's everything else is, and that is in all caps. Keep away from children. Oh, that makes sense.
And there's also not an ingredient label as far as I can tell. I don't want to really rip this thing off, but it might be in there.
That so many of us don't actually open
it's
up.
under there.
Okay. So
made in the US with US and non-US components. Well, if it's made in the US, then it only has the rules of the US. So my friend who is in dermatology school, she told me a great tip was to look for brands that are made and produced outside of our country, because they have higher standards. So, or that are sold as they're sold here in our country. One thing that Dr. Gordon and I have talked about is there was recently a thing with Olaplex where everybody lost their minds that Olaplex caused infertility, or they have an ingredient that, or it's banned or something. And I mean, first of all, that taught us not to go to TikTok for information. And the whole background of that is that the E ban an ingredient that was currently in the Olaplex formula, or was in formula up until January. And rather have 2 formulas, one for the E to be compliant for them and one for the US to be compliant for us, they decided to make it compliant for the E and take that ingredient out of our products too.
Which is what they should do, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and also from a business standpoint, it doesn't make sense to have 2 formulas.
Yeah.
But the same people that lost their minds over that story didn't piece together that ingredient is in household cleaners, that ingredient is in other products, and it's still completely legal here.
Yeah.
So you know.
One thing that back to just, because I think I see a lot of patients that have hair loss and concerns because I see a lot of patients with hypothyroidism. And so sometimes, it's like, what's going on internally, but then like all of these tips that you're giving us today externally are so important because I think that so much of it is like, oh, it's all internal, but no, I mean, there's some just basic fundamental tips too. That's really important. But I was going to say one thing that we've also had some good success with was like laser hair cap treatments there too. So again, just to have that more of that vasodilation. And so that's something else that we've had some good success with for hair loss. And then also PRP injections as well.
I've heard of that.
So I'm always, it's so fun to see or hear from a patient that's like, oh, my hairdresser has like commented, and they may be like, I haven't really noticed maybe a change, but my hairdresser commented on it. And so then now it's like, I'm sort of looking in the mirror and realize, yes, I am noticing improvement. So it's cool to have that.
We will always notice. Like, I think it's hard for people to notice what's happening on their own heads. But like, it's almost like spatial awareness. It's almost like if you always have this far away from you, you could almost like blindly be like, okay, this is here. When I work on clients, I know exactly how much hair each person has. I know how long it usually takes me to do their hair, to blow dry their hair, all the things. And so if something is like all of a sudden different, it's funny, like, even though I see people like every 3 or 4 months, I'm like, you have more hair. Like, I feel it. I know this. And then as you're blow drying, you can always ask your hairstylist. When we're round brushing, I always hold it out with the round brush and I blow dry through the section, and it pops all the little hairs down and through. And that's where you can start to see the new stuff. And so I've even done it on myself. Post thyroid surgery, I lost so much. And it's not the end of the world. I'm still alive and I have hair, but it made like my styling was way harder. Everything laid flat. I got greasier way faster because I didn't have the density I normally do. And when it started coming back, I looked like I had a bird's nest, just crazy hair. And then when I was blow drying, I started taking photos of how long that new growth was. Now it's probably midway down my back, but it was just crazy to see that difference.
Tell me, as far as, because I think one thing that's important too is expectations as far as the follicles and the cycles. And so for those that don't know, I mean, during pregnancy, that turnover goes into dormancy. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, my prenatal, I mean, all that stuff's good, but it's actually, that's a normal, process, physiology of during pregnancy is that our hair kind of turnover goes into dormancy. Right? But then afterwards, then all of a sudden it's like overdrive. And then it can be really scary for those that have just had a baby, just having a ton of all of a sudden hair loss. So I don't know if you can speak on just any other like timing and what we're doing now. We may not see the benefits of it for a few months.
So hair grows on average a quarter to a half-inch month. So if you take into consideration, like, the length of my hair is multiple years. This is probably 6 years old hair, right? The very ends. And so if let's say I lose 50% of my hair, it's going to take about 6 years for the same length and the same density to come back. So it's interesting because I have a lot of clients who've had children and I've like seen them through multiple pregnancies. And your pregnancy hair will be the most lush, gorgeous, perfect hair. Like, I'll take all the photos because it's going to be the best hair we're ever going to have, right? And I always try to, especially if it's somebody's first time, give them a heads up. It's usually around the 4th month. And it's usually if you're weaning off of breastfeeding and there's a change in hormones, that's when the shed will start. For me personally, you guys can veto it if you've looked into it, but I do sell Nutrafol, which is a supplement for hair loss. And it supports you from the inside out. And they have a prenatal formula. I'm sure naturopaths can also make recommendations on prenatal and postnatal formulas that can help ease that transition. Because I think it's not just like, you can't prevent it, it's going to happen, but easing the swing of being so fast and so much, and knowing that, there are things you can kind of do to help that. I've had some clients that are like, it's just going to happen. I'm just going to let it happen. But I'm like, don't let it happen. I mean, it's still going to happen, but like, you don't want to talk to your doctor about like
gracefully. It's going to happen, but there's ways and there's things that we can do to have that be in a graceful, manner,
So, I mean, if you're going to go through that, like maybe we ease up on the tight ponytails, right? And, we're never going to be 100% on everything, but maybe we increase our supplements, maybe we increase our scalp massage, maybe increase our scalp treatments, just to create a really good environment for that hair to grow back in. Because then what I hear for the next year is like, oh my gosh, all these baby hairs. And it's like, it takes a quarter of an inch to a half inch a month. So.
And as far as when there is hair shedding, that as far as normal expectations there too. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it's generally about 100 strains of hair a day.
Yeah.
Right?
50 to 100 a day is normal.
Of hair loss?
Yeah. strands though, because like if you I did get crazy and I counted the strands on my shower wall, and we all put our hair on the shower wall, so like we don't have to think that that's weird.
You gotta take it out of your hand and put it somewhere, right?
You
And then
can't let it
rinse
go down
off.
the drain. I was the only girl in my family. I got yelled at for clogging the bathtub. And so, yeah, or you have to put a hanger down. It's a whole thing. So after my thyroid stuff, I started trying to keep notice and, post surgery, I will even say post COVID, I've seen a lot of post COVID hair loss. I'm personally like upping all my things and just praying. And, so I went through and I actually counted each strand on my shower wall. And I think I hit like 65. And you have to keep in mind, like, that's just your shower. So what you lose in the shower is one thing, but then what you lose after you go to brush your hair out while you're styling throughout the day. So if you're losing almost all 100 in the shower, I would say that's something to look at. I think now washing every 3 days, however, I do brush consistently, I probably lose 20-ish strands in the shower. I think that's like really good. I do have some clients where every time I shampoo them, I'm pulling out handfuls. And like for me, that's alarming. And it makes me really sad because I will always point it out. Like, and it's not to pick on people. And I tell people like, I'm here to observe and tell you what I observe because you can't observe yourself sometimes. I will always, as I'm combing, I'll be like, oh, funny mole. Have you seen this one? I've taken photos of people's scalps, right? And been like, here, show your doctor. And so try to bring it up with clients and they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, if your stylist for a full year has been telling you that you're losing hair, it's worth looking into. And I always tell people, go get your blood work done, go get your thyroid checked.
Anemia. There's estrogen dominance. There's so many.
If you go keto really hard, big diet changes, fully cutting out certain things, that can throw you off too. Stress is a big one. I think all of us had like, I would say like low grade heightened cortisol throughout the last couple of years. Like if you asked me, were you stressed? I could be like, no, probably not. Maybe a little bit, but like my body will tell you otherwise. Right. And we just kind of become used to it. So, I mean, there's supplements to help with bringing down cortisol, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So dressing hair.
See, I love that you know
all of the things.
Yeah.
Your computer has low battery, but
Okay. I think just one thing too that I feel like a lot of our members and those watching back would appreciate is a little bit of perspective too about the psychology of cosmetics and hair. And I know when we were talking at one point, that you sometimes have a conversation when someone starts coloring their hair. So I don't color my hair yet, but also like why and for how long. And it can be such a sensitive subject.
you mean like societal beauty standards?
Well, yeah, that. And then, yeah, it's something I think worth, I guess, mentioning or talking about a little bit there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Standards, but I do think that there's this self-worth and, our self-esteem. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it all. So I'm just curious your perspective as a hairdresser, like, what do you see? And if you're giving any tips to those, that are struggling with their confidence around their hair.
That's a whole thing. Not a small topic.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
like simple, like just kind of.
I'll tell you, I think something really great that's happening is a lot of us are moving away from what used to be. And what used to be was covering everything. Covering up our faces, covering up our hair, gray, like no wrinkles, no nothing. I think there is, especially post-quarantine life, a lot of people chose to embrace gray in quarantine. And I had a couple clients that were like, I think I'm ready. And I'm like, there's never been a better time. Just do it, girl. Because it's not going to hurt me for them to feel good and to do what works for them. Be wary if you have a hairstylist that doesn't want to help you transition out of that. I would say maybe find somebody who's willing to do that, because it doesn't hurt my paycheck for somebody to want to go gray. I will find another person, or I will be doing their cuts, right? Like, that's not a reason to keep people in a color cycle. I really warn people to not go a full permanent color, roots to ends, to cover gray when they only have like 10 gray hairs. Because once you start, it is really hard to stop. And if you have transitioned to gray, if you're at home and you have worked on this, you know how long it takes, especially when hair only grows a quarter of an inch a month. And the alternative is doing a heavy color correction to go back to gray, which not a lot of stylists can do. And then it's going to cost you thousands of dollars. And you'll probably have to get a good hefty haircut. So I always recommend growing it out or transitioning your color into a more sheer color and letting the sparkle kind of come through.
I love that you say sparkle.
Yeah. They do teach us in school. We're not supposed to say, certain words. We're not supposed to say bald. right? We're supposed to say thinning or, less dense, right?
Less-
Yeah. So, I mean, grays
I'm gonna
make
start
us
saying that. I'm
yeah.
letting my sparkle shine.
Just a little tinsel, right? And I think it's great. Like I actually personally don't color my hair. That's more out of like always bridesmaid, never a bride situation. But, I have some grays. My mom has colored her hair since she was probably like a teenager, and I'm already exposed to chemicals so much anyways. I don't foresee myself ever, don't bring this up if I'm like 60 and coloring my hair, but like, I don't really foresee myself ever going a full every 4 or 5 weeks root retouch. Also, if you are an every 4 to 5 week root retouch, it is worth mentioning that it's not normal to have it burn. It's not normal to be itchy. You might develop an allergy. It can be serious. If you do feel symptoms like that afterwards, talk to your stylist about it. There are other color lines out there that might be more beneficial. And usually people are allergic to either PPD or, there was one other one in color, but.
So when choosing, because I know there's a lot of, one, like, I want you to be my hairstyle. But for those of you that are local, are there certain brands or certain questions to ask for when trying to find the right fit and someone that's kind of more in line with our desires and things that we've talked about today?
I would say from a professional standpoint, I've never had a client call and ask for a specific color line. And if somebody does, it's kind of weird, but you would find it's kind of like finding the brand, right, that aligns with you. So you would look for the person who kind of does the look of what you're looking for. You wanted something low maintenance. Everything you would see on my Instagram is low maintenance. And I also share on there how often people are coming in. I show a lot of before pictures so you know what it looks like when it grows out.
I think I would be that one client though, to be like, do you use this brand? I'm just saying.
Yeah, but
I'll be the weird one.
You'd have to find it, right? Like you'd have to find a professional, like the
Can
information
you say what
on
brands, professional brands for coloring that you like?
For myself, I have looked into Original Mineral. It's a brand out of Australia that is PPD free and resorcinol free. And those are two of the main ingredients. I think it's also ammonia free. There's another brand called Away, which I believe it's Italian. Don't quote me on that, but it's also a great natural line. Then we're going to get into the people who go, well, what about henna?
Right.
Henna tends to have metallic dyes, which I personally don't touch henna on hair at all because you can have a chemical interaction and hair can literally smoke and fall off. Like you can open, especially if you're doing highlights, you can open a packet and it can be fully melted. So it's chemicals that we're working with. If you henna dye your hair at home, more power to you, keep doing it. But like, I wouldn't do highlights over it.
Yeah.
So professional liability.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Because like I said, I think I would be that person that just be like, hey, like I want to find somebody that can use these brands.
I think the other big piece of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not just about finding the cleanest product or hair color or those types of things. It's just like we were talking about products that sit on your scalp. I don't get my hair colored on my actual scalp, that it is, so there's less absorption. Yes, it's coloring my hair. Yes, I am in a room with chemicals and those types of things, but we're very mindful about, okay, how frequently am I doing this? Yeah. It's not coming into contact with my scalp to where then I'm absorbing it and we're having a conversation. Yeah. I used to when I was younger.
Yeah. That's where the conversation comes in too about doing an every 4 to 5 week retouch,
which is what I used to do,
where you sit for 35 minutes and it tends to have ammonia, especially if you're covering grays. Something needs to open the cuticle to drive the pigment in. And then you're exposing yourself to that chemical on an every 4 to 5 week basis versus an every 4 month basis that doesn't have contact. And it's more of a blending service also. So then she doesn't feel married to me. And, like usually when people come in, we're like, oh, still looks good. Cool. Like you never have a day where you're like, oh my gosh, my hair looks so bad. I need to go get my hair done. Yeah. And I think that's where hair in general is kind of moving towards a lower maintenance, more of a luxury service. And so, frequency of exposure and actually if it's topically on you. If you're worried about respiratory wise, or if you're worried about the environment, there are things like Green Circle salons. Green Circle is it's a recycling program that hairstylists can use. And so it recycles every component that we use. It recycles hair. They actually use it to clean up oil spills. Cool. So they collect everything and then they redistribute it to where it needs to go. And then there's also clean air certified salons, which is really, really hard to become. But if you're really concerned, you could look into that. And then a great thing about California is a lot of salons have a lot of airflow. So
I do just want to go back really quick to the question that Dr. Stewart asked about how to have conversations with clients about, their desires or coloring or not coloring and, embracing certain things. And I think that for like my personal perspective, I started coloring my hair really young because it was something like cool. It was an expression. I started getting gray hair in my 20s. And then I'm one of those people where I'm not opposed to my gray hair. I am also not I'm not there yet. I'm
Yeah.
not ready to embrace. And while somebody else might not be like, oh, you have a lot of gray hair, I am like, I get to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a little uncomfortable for me, because I think that there is a little bit of identity to gray hair. And yes, I have 3 kids and I'm getting older, but I'm just not ready.
And isn't that the psychology of the beauty industry, though, is that they tell us that we're not young enough, we're not skinny enough, we're not pretty enough,
Yeah.
we're not blonde enough. Abercrombie told us all we're not blonde enough.
Yeah.
But like, it's kind of as a whole, we all kind of have to decide that we're not accepting that.
Mhm.
And I get like when we start to see ourselves not look like ourselves anymore.
Mhm.
And so there are options, though, if you're like, okay, I just can't have this much gray. Then maybe we do more highlights, or maybe you do a sheer coverage versus a permanent, like hair color ranges almost like denim down to nylons as far as coverage goes. So if you have something that blends versus full solid coverage, it does allow a softer grow out. It does allow a little bit more time in between. And from there, you could step down your coverage if you want to walk your way out of it.
I'll get there someday.
Yeah. It'll be great.
And I think that this is like a kind of a good take home point too, is just like how important it is to feel beautiful inside and out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And to do one versus the other. I mean, this is, we're all in this together. We're all in this world, and it's okay. And we do the best that we can,
Yeah.
you know, like, and I'm like totally willing to admit some of these products that I have at home.
Yeah.
And I'm
This is
like
real
an
life.
environmental medicine, and like, this is my world, and I still
You're
don't
good.
have it, you know, perfectly. And that's okay.
But
you
there
know,
is
and I
there is
feel-
no
yeah,
perfect.
there is
That's
no
the thing, is that there is no perfect. There's no perfectly clean. So don't stress yourselves out about that. And one thing that I kept telling these two is I don't want people to leave this and feel like they have to go throw away everything, or that they're going to be like, like
Yeah, too much.
it's too much. I can't do anything.
Little small little
But
things,
yes, like
daily practices.
when I converted my makeup over to clean makeup, and the best tip I got was don't throw away things. You're fine. But when you run out of something, replace it with something better.
Mhm.
So if you are, and I don't mind plugging my favorite clean makeup brand, which is Ilia. I think it's ILIA.
Mhm.
I really like
So
Jane
good.
Iredale. I use
Love.
a lot. Yeah, there's some good ones. for sure.
Kosas. And if you're in San Diego, there's a store called Shop Good. There's also Credo Beauty here. And if you're in Washington, Credo Beauty's online. And Sephora has a very small clean section. I would also then ask Sephora, like, what does it mean to them to be clean? But that's where you'll find like Ilia.
Mhm.
But yeah, just take whatever you run out of next. If you're going to run out of shampoo, maybe now's a good time to try something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Any
All
other
right.
questions before I think we're,
Yeah. If anyone has any
Yeah.
more questions.
Yeah.
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 I wanted to know what your nighttime routine looks like. Any beauty products there? I know you
Oh,
mentioned
gosh.
the daytime routine, care for our
Yeah, do you
hair.
sleep in
Ooh.
anything? Like
Um,
hair wise? You don't tell me your pajama routine.
Nighttime skincare. I'll admit though, like I like some medical grade skincare, right? Which probably has some chemicals in it. But you know, if we're gonna get the Botox, then maybe we also can sign on for some of those. So no judgment if you guys do that too. Hair wise though, never sleeping with your hair up, especially if it's up and tight, not sleeping on wet hair for the things that we talked about earlier with hair stretching and breaking easier when it's wet. If you wear extensions, you always want to do like a low pony or a loose braid. Even if you don't have extensions and you feel like you need to keep your hair contained, I feel like that's a safe way. Obviously, you can do like silk wraps, especially for curly hair. You want to keep the frizz down. I think that's about it.
silk scrunchies.
There are silk
and-
scrunchies,
yeah,
silk
silk, yeah.
pillowcases. I personally, before I go to bed, I do brush my scalp and my hair. If you're ever going to use dry shampoo, you would put it on the night of so that it absorbs your oils.
Versus
Not in
like
the
the
morning.
morning of when you're getting ready.
Yeah, it's always best used technically on clean hair because you're preventing it from happening versus
So it
trying to
absorbs
treat it
as-
afterwards.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right. Great question.
Yeah.
Thanks. I would say probably too, it'd be a good idea too, I mean, especially if I have patients with a lot of allergies,
Mm.
make sure you change your pillowcases a lot
Yes.
too. Just because that would be, they'll talk about buildup.
Yep.
Yeah, right there. So, cool.
Yes.
You know, Facebook group,
Mhm.
and then just obviously talk to your naturopathic doctor.
Yep. And we'll post the discount code in
Okay.
both the
Yeah.
Facebook group and then
Okay,
we can maybe upload it.
Yeah.
And-
And if you guys have any questions, I mean, you can find me on Instagram.
Yeah. What's your
Um,
Instagram?
Yeah, who are
Sure.
you? Yeah, what's your
Who
hand-
are
what's your
you?
handle?
Yeah.
What's your hand-
It's Alicia Loves Balayage, ALICIA loves balayage. And then I list a lot of products because not all of my clients want to be clean, but I also have clean products listed as well. So OA, Original Mineral, Hair Story, Reverie.
All right. Well, thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.